5G connectivity is becoming a reality for more and more Americans and for national, state, and local government agencies. But getting the most out of 5G also requires understanding how 5G works across different spectrum bands and how that can impact the delivery of services. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and joining us to talk about 5G in the state and local government space is Dave Bezzant, Vice President, T-Mobile for Government. Dave, thank you so much for joining us.
Wyatt, it's great to be here with you. Thanks for taking the time.
Let me start by asking, why is it important for government agency officials to understand how 5G works across different spectrum bands that 5G relies on? And then how does that impact the delivery of the services they're trying to provide?
Yeah, Wyatt, it's a great question. And it may be somewhat complicated, and I'm going to try and put that in the simplest terms for someone to understand. So there are different radio bands or different frequencies that broadcast, and different companies own different versions of that airwaves spectrum. One thing that T-Mobile has done really well is they have purchased bands of spectrum in what's called low band, mid band, and high band. And I'm going to try and describe the propensities of each one of those and what they give. A low band spectrum has a great ability to go a longer distance, but it may not carry the same level of capacity that some of the other bands I'll talk about here in a minute have. And so when you get into rural parts of America, and a large majority of America is rural, it's important that you can have a broad signal. The other thing that low band does is it will also penetrate glass, metal, plastic, and infrastructure, brick and mortar. So to get in-building coverage, it's also a very critical element to have low band signal. If you're looking at mid-band signal, it's important because if you want to have high band data throughput or capacity, mid-band is absolutely critical. And so if you would like to think about considering replacing Wi-Fi or traditional ways that you had gotten broadband prior, you really could not operate the kind of speeds that you're going to need if you do not have mid-band spectrum. Not all mid-band spectrum is created equal, by the way. And one of the things that T-Mobile is really proud of is having a frequency called 2.5 gigahertz. This frequency came from Sprint, which merged with T-Mobile in a few years ago during the pandemic in 2020. And that mid-band spectrum of 2.5 gigahertz can both hold a heavy capacity load and penetrate infrastructure. And that's important if you're looking at autonomous vehicles. That's important if you're looking at a number of different things that have infrastructure that are built in for you to get that capacity. Finally, you have high band spectrum. High band spectrum is incredibly fast. Some people call it millimeter wave. When you happen to have that high band spectrum, that will give you gig download speeds, which is incredible. However, one of the challenges with that is it's very fickle, meaning that glass, metal, plastic, leaves, or objects interfere within that signal. And so it has to be deployed in the right areas. Think of a stadium, think of places that have clear line of sight where you want heavy capacity, but you may have challenges with infrastructure. So Wyatt, I hope that little key may help give a breakdown of how a signal works.
Thank you for outlining that. No, I think that's very important to really appreciate for different applications. Let's talk a little bit about how is 5G connectivity impacting the investment considerations of agencies, particularly around government internet and fixed wireless.
Yeah, you think back, and I think about the way people consume media. And when I was a kid, we would go rent movies from a video place. For us, it was Adventureland Video. If you were in a bigger city, you might have had Blockbuster or Hollywood Video. But that was how you essentially got video content, was from a tape or a cassette. You had to rewind it. You had to turn it back in on time. Then the invention of the DVD came out. It was incredible to see how that shrunk from big tapes to something slim and more portable. Today, no one thinks about those types of technologies. They think about an application like Netflix or Hulu or something else that's actually built into the device, where they click on the application, they have loads of media content. And so when you think about 5G connectivity and what investment that means, the way that people got internet in the past was from taking cable and connecting cable to routing devices. And then those routing devices had to hook to some sort of broadcast or mesh network. And that's how we got internet. It's pretty cumbersome, by the way, to cable. It takes a lot of time. And so if you're thinking about investments, if you're a government organization and you're building a new building, or if you have a satellite office, I think about somewhere like City of Los Angeles. City of Los Angeles has 410 buildings that the city has. So if you're in the government, how are you thinking about managing and maintaining what you would consider broadband? And how do you give people connectivity when they leave the building? Do you end up having to have 2 subscriptions or more things to manage? So 5G is something that people are starting to look to replace Wi-Fi and look at broadband in an infrastructure level that would go anywhere with them. It would work in the building, and it would give high capacity levels of connectivity, and it would travel outside with them. And so it's a fascinating concept, by the way, that's in its early stages. I don't think Wi-Fi is going away soon. I do want to make that statement. However, I think that a lot of leaders are starting to think about the future of that. And within those consideration sets, they might be thinking, do I need private? Do I need private and public? Or do I need a blend of each one of those technologies, Wyatt?
Well, let's talk a little more about the opportunities around private 5G and also advanced network services. What's ahead for government agencies to consider?
I think CIOs and CTOs all over the country are looking for great partners to provide managed services. It's very difficult to run your business and then have to host other people's technologies and be responsible for other people's technologies. And so I think that a majority of CIOs and CTOs around the country are looking for something that could be a managed service. Wireless or 5G and privatizing that or customizing those solutions may be the emerging market for that. I can tell you confidently that the U.S. Department of Defense is out in front of these types of initiatives. You may be aware that the U.S. Military started 2 tranche projects where they started to test these technologies. And when you think about these technologies, we want more data. We want more information. What is the air quality? How many people are in a building? Where are people located in a building? Is the building secure? If you have refrigeration, is the refrigeration keeping food at proper temperature so that you don't have some sort of outbreak? And are you aware of the temperature of those? Can you control lighting? Can you control lighting remotely? Does that save in energy costs? What about video analytics? If you're thinking about schools, what are you doing to make sure that you have visual eyes on your campus? And wireless technology makes those types of things easier to deploy. And the 5G portion or component of them gives you higher bandwidth and higher capacity. So if you're pulling in video feeds or you're needing close latency to have great GPS precision to know exactly where those objects are and things like that are happening, all of that can be done in one managed service. Whether somebody wants to privatize that, meaning that the general public cannot see that connectivity and only they can see the connectivity and manage that, or whether they want that publicized would be a different scenario. One final point in the private versus public, think about an airport. I live in Utah, and Utah just built a $4 billion airport. It's absolutely beautiful. And so the airport has under the wing, back of house operations that they have to go do for airlines and for their own security teams, for TSA, for a number of groups. And then you have the general public who's coming and accessing that. And so 5G technologies may be partially privatized for the operations that I mentioned in early, and they may be open for general public, general population.
That's interesting to hear. And then lastly, where are you seeing 5G connectivity making a difference in the public sector in terms of launching new or more innovative initiatives? What kind of use cases have caught your attention?
There's some great use cases. I hope you don't mind me holding up a visual, but there's a device like this, and this is a device made by Inseego. It's amazing to think that this device right here has a micro SIM card slot. And so you can put in a SIM card, and this very same device is akin to a router that's hooked up to cat cable in someone's home or location. Think about work from home. No one wants to have somebody who has to trench their yard, drill a hole in the side of their house, put in cable, and then place a modem that's cabled directly to that object, because it may not be in the most ideal part of your home either to give you central connectivity. A device like like this can give you coverage of 4,000 square feet. Isn't that amazing? And it can take 5G connectivity and convert the 5G connectivity into Wi-Fi. So all of those devices in someone's home, your doorbell, your security system, your televisions, whatever else it might be, a device like this can connect 27 unique items to it and convert that to Wi-Fi, and do that with high speed and high capacity. And so when you think about that, one of the big initiatives around the country is to bridge the digital divide. There are many people in suburban, rural, and urban communities who lack internet connectivity. T-Mobile is very passionate about being able to try and help them. One of the initiatives that T-Mobile has is called Project 10 Million. And Project 10 Million has already connected 3.2 million students with unlimited high-speed connectivity, or for free or no cost, 100 gigs of high-speed connectivity on an annual basis. And T-Mobile in those situations is paying for or covering the MiFi hotspot, or a mobile hotspot device, on one per household. And so teaming up with schools and education communities to bridge the digital divide, and even states and counties, is really important. One more thing, I saw great work happen with New York City. New York City and the Department of Aging has really made sure that people who need telehealth access and who may not be able to leave their homes or their apartments, or who may have higher risk of health issue, has been issuing them tablets that have telehealth connectivity that's built into it. And so the possibilities are really endless, but we're super excited what 5G brings to the table, Wyatt.
Well, those are great examples. And I have to think, with some of the federal funding now going out to the states to support internet service, these new technologies got to really help schools, as you mentioned, and other public agencies really deliver better services. So I really appreciate your outlining that. And Dave Bezzant, thank you so much for just joining us today and kind of helping us get a clearer picture of the potential for 5G for state and local governments.
Wyatt, it's been an honor to be on with you, and thank you again for you and your team for taking the time.
Terrific.